Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My name is Mohammed Khan from the Islamic Propagation Center International. Brothers, I'm not sure if the sisters learning. Imam Abdul Alim Musa has traveled a very long way to visit you, to give you some nasiha. And I have told him that your school produces the best students in the whole country. So inshallah, show him that you are that caliber. And he has a message to give you. I'm going to tell you a bit who Imam Abdul Alim Musa is. He is from Washington DC, where he has built Masjid al-Islam. He has built another masjid in California. And Imam Abdul Alim Musa was born in 1945 in Arkansas. Imam Abdul Alim Musa was part of the Black Panther Party, a black political group in America. He's currently a Muslim activist, and before his early life, around about 20 to 30, before he was imprisoned in America, he was the largest black drug lord on the west coast of America. And Imam Abdul Musa has a message for you. And when he finishes, please write down your questions and give them to me. I will read them out and you can ask them. So please give me about 20 minutes of your undivided attention, please. Jazakallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astagfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu wa la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa din al-haq liyadhhiruhu ala din kulihi walau karih al-mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Dear believers, I want to speak to you today about a very grave subject, as they have asked me, and it is about the history of the drug trade, the purpose of the drug trade, and the effects of the drug trade, and how it affects our family, our society, and our nation, and the global implications of it. Now, there's something I want to tell you before I begin to speak. First of all, if you know the concept of ilm al-yaqeen, ilm al-yaqeen is that you know something because of knowledge of that reality. You know that you have brothers and sisters and a mother and father because this is something you just know. You didn't have to research it. You knew it because of your process of growing and developing and your environmental situation. So ilm al-yaqeen means I know it because this is based on actual knowledge, and I know this is a fact. There's other thing as ayn al-yaqeen. Ayn al-yaqeen is I saw it with my own eyes. And you know, when Ibrahim asked Allah to show me so I can see with my own eyes, and so Allah asked him, which Allah don't have to ask, but it's just a response to this process. Don't you believe in? He says, yes, I believe. I know what I'm told from you is exactly correct. But I want to see it myself. So when I talk to people, right, it's going to be hard for them to accept it, and I want to tell them, I know this is correct because I saw it with my own eyes. The other highest level is Haq al-Yaqeen. I know fire burns because I've stuck my hand on it before and got scorched. I know what I'm beginning to tell you. I'm telling you this because I know what I'm talking about. I experienced it, I lived it on the highest levels. And what I'm going to tell you, this is good and that's good, it's not because maybe I just became some failure there and I came to Islam and to rescue me from Jahiliyyah. No, I'm not telling you that because of that reason. I'm not telling you that because I have not had or do not still now have access to the highest levels of life that you might seem as beautiful based on the television. I just want to show you a couple of pictures to give you an idea. Okay, this is probably 40-something, way over 40 years ago. This is what I used to dress like. Now, I know you have rich houses, but I could buy your house with what this suit cost. Yeah, I'm telling you. I could buy a house, okay. I could buy an average good house in South Africa right now for what this suit cost me then. Okay, now this is mink and all of that, so you know women in America wear mink, probably don't wear it here because it's a little too hot. But anyway, this is the kind of car I drove. I didn't have one of these, I probably had 8 or 9 of them, all different varieties. My house looked like a parking lot. I was telling the brother, I said, no, I had all the kind of cars. And then even, not only me, I was so wealthy if I was driving down the street and I saw some of my old friends, you know what I mean, they're just working on a job or something, and I stop and talk to them. You know, man, how you doing? Oh, I'm not doing too well, da-da-da-da. And you know, when you're young, you like big, pretty cars, right? So I would take them down to the Benz dealer or whatever they like, and I said, pick out one of them on the floor. The nicest one, not no little bitty Benz or BMW, the little small, no. Pick out the biggest and the baddest one out there, and I would shell out the money right away and say, okay. And he would drive away with a big smile on his face. I did this many times. So don't think I'm telling you what I'm saying because, oh, I really miss that lifestyle. No, I don't miss it. I retired from it voluntarily. I didn't, and I'll tell you as I go along, I stopped that at a certain period in my life because that's just what I wanted to do because I thought it was right. All the thing about beautiful women and all of that, we had all of those. Anything that you could think about from Hollywood that tells you about the beautiful life, right? Because probably most of you think that Hollywood is just all the movies and all the people. If you want to find the craziest people in the United States, go to Hollywood. Why is that? Watch any talk show, all the people in Hollywood have a psych. I talked to my psych yesterday, you know, a psychiatrist, to help them get by. Why? Because they have everything that's supposed to make you happy. First of all, they look physically beautiful, handsome. The women are beautiful, the men are handsome, they're working out in the gym and all of that. You know what I mean? So they have everything that is supposed to make you happy, right? They're well known, they're famous, people look up to them, they respect them, but they're unhappy. They're the biggest drug addicts in America. There's a void, there's a hole in their life, and they don't know where that hole is coming from. And each of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has placed a void in us. And our nafs are there to fulfill those voids. A void for hunger, our nafs kick in, we get hungry, right? And we eat. A void for women or men, what have you, we get married and we have children, that void is fulfilled, right? But even the acquisition of material, sometimes that helps fill another void. But there's a void in all of us that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can fulfill or can fill. And what most human beings do when they become wealthy, they think that the wealth should fill the void, so they keep acquiring more and more and more and more, and they never get satisfied. Whereas if they turn to their Creator who placed that void in us, and that void is only filled by Allah. That's why if you have Islam and you have a small, medium house, you get along pretty well, you can be happier, much more fulfilled than someone that has all the material things and no Allah. I'm trying to tell you that what I'm going to begin to talk to you about, that I know this because of experience. Not because, oh, I wish I had what I had before. I still have access to buy any kind of car I want, but I don't, because I don't want to waste no money on a big car when there's people in orphanages and everywhere else that need that same money. You see what I mean? So I'm not going to go and waste money buying something for myself that I don't need. Because when I was just a little bit older than you, I had an opportunity to acquire and use and consume everything that they had at that time. So therefore, it is my honor and it is a privilege to talk to you today on these various subjects. By the way, I was also a pretty good bodybuilder, you know. So I wasn't a little weak guy that running around. I was a pretty tough fellow, and you know, that's what I did, bodybuild, box, all that stuff. So everything that you had, you talk about, beautiful body, handsome women, anything you can talk about, I already had all of that. So much that was coming out of my ears. Okay, now to the subject of today, which is this problem of drugs. And I had some programs decades ago. In fact, here's a flyer from one of the programs. This is 1986. I guess that's a little before you guys was born. So you know that means I have a little history. Now this is a program relating to stuff that happened 10 years ahead, before or earlier. Drugs and their effects on the individual, on the family and friends, on the community. Drugs as a means of exploitation and control of the black community. What we can and should do to save ourselves and our community from this deadly and destructive element. First, I want to talk to you about why drugs flooded the black community and at what time. Before the Black Rebellion in America, now I'm going to take you back to the time of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, who's a very good friend of mine. All of those people you read about in the history books, some of them are very good friends of mine, especially Imam Jamil, H. Rap Brown. Now, what happened was we were a very loving and close community. We were oppressed. We lived under segregation, just like what you called here apartheid. Segregation and apartheid means exactly the same thing. Where we lived, the car we drove, if we had a car, whatever depend on what color you are, your neighborhood, your education. Everything was determined by your color, your race, right? Even, now you got to imagine us here as African Americans. We were stolen from this continent, mostly West Africa, taken to the United States. Our language, our culture, our religion was taken away from us so that we didn't know nothing about where we came from, right? And when they talked about Africa, they talked about people swinging in trees, right? Wearing grass skirts, and that it was the dark, they called Africa in my day the dark continent. That means that it was unknown, and they talked nothing about our great civilizations here in Africa. They didn't talk about that. They never told us even the earliest of human remains and civilizations come from here in Africa. They didn't tell us nothing like that. Remember, we're stolen from here. 40% of us are Muslim, they estimate. You're taken there and you're brainwashed. Your language, culture, and your religion, everything that makes you a human being is taken away. And then the one that enslaves you teaches you everything, who you are, where you came from. So he's going to teach you and give you an inferiority complex. He's going to tell you, we used to have a saying when I was growing up, if you white, you're all right. If you yellow, you're mellow. That means black equals white. If you're brown, stick around. But if you black, get back. Now, that we said that ourselves. You got to think about it. Wait a minute, this is serious. Look, I'm telling you, this is a serious, it's more serious. It's laughable. But now you got to remember the effects of this type of teaching. When you die and go to heaven, you're going to turn white as snow. All the angels are what color? White. You look on the wall and you see a picture of Jesus Christ. He's the Son of God, right? That's what they're telling us there now, remember. And the Son of God is what color? White. Good God Almighty. Have you ever heard of a little white lie? That's not a bad lie. But have you ever heard of a big black lie? You are a black liar. That's a real lie. Now, a little white lie, now remember, think of this, everything white is good and everything black is bad, and you happen to be black. Now, if you come in here, if your father, one of your fathers walk in, I look around, I say, oh, there's son over there. Why? Because I see the son, I see the father, isn't that right? Now, this is serious. If God is materialized and Jesus is white, then what color is God? It don't take much sense to figure that out. If Jesus is white, then God is white. And then you got the mixture of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all in one. Right? What effect is that going to have on somebody? You got to remember. Now, with all of that type of teaching, in us, we begin to rebel. You've probably heard about the rebellion of the 1960s. We were in open rebellion. Only 10% of the population, but we'd had enough. 400 years of this was enough, and we're all finished. And we had a good base. This segregation means we all lived in one community, but we loved each other. The doors were never locked. If you walk down the street and you were out playing and you looked hungry or something, your neighbor your neck would call you in and feed you and get on out of here, boy. And then if you was bad, your neighbor, your auntie or somebody could give you a spanking. Wasn't her child, but she could do it because we was that close of community. We loved each other. We had the same hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So when we rebelled against the government, if they hurt me, then they hurt the whole neighborhood because we were one people. Then the government had to figure out a way. This is according to their documents. You could read it all in counterintelligence program. They had a special program. It is a historical program that has always worked. Any of you read much about history? History, you get a good history class here? Have anybody ever heard of the Opium War? Opium War, 1840. Huh? The purpose of the Opium War was what? That Britain, the empire of the day, wanted to flood China with opium and break its back, and that's exactly what it did. In other words, they made China into a country of opium addicts. Therefore, the conquest of China was complete and absolute. What are they going to do with us rebelling? All the rebellion is on TV. The world is saying, I thought America was a great democracy, but it's water hosing, killing, and bombing. They're bombing black churches. They're killing us every day. And they have been lynching us on trees, right, for the last several hundred years. So what about this great democracy in America? So then that criminal system says, what we're going to do? They went back to history. Then they began to drop drugs in the community. The main one was heroin. And I'll give you an idea how deadly is heroin. In 1966, during the rebellion, have you ever heard of Detroit? Detroit's a big city, the Motor City in the USA. During that period of rebellion, the police in Detroit was ran out. We took over the city, the whole city of Detroit. Then they sent in the National Guard. That's the lower level of the Army. We ran them out. The next, if you watch TV about the movies, Delta Force, the 82nd Airborne Division, that is the most elite military force in the United States from the Army. They had to send them in to take back Detroit from us because we were a people, because we were organized, because we were disciplined, because we were sick of 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow and oppression, and then they dropped heroin in. Within 2 years, Detroit is finished. You could come in and take it with a fly swatter. Why? Because the people had become addicted to drugs. The rebellion is finished. All the rebels have to try to rescue their brother or their cousin, right, from heroin addiction. The mothers are now abandoning their children because, why? Heroin addiction. They broke the back of the revolution or the rebellion within 1 or 2 years with only drugs. Now, my city in Oakland, California, the headquarters of the most militant group in the United States, it was the Black Panther Party for self-defense. So we believe that self-defense, not attacking the system, but if they come, say, oh, the police always beat us and killed us and jailed us. So we carried weapons and we defended ourselves. If the police attacked us, we'd attack them right back. They didn't like that. That didn't feel too good. So it's all right shooting at targets without weapons or anything, but when the target starts shooting back, this is dangerous business. All right. So they had to, this city was one of the main targets my city. But now, personally, I was in the middle of all of this. Number one, you hear about two ends of the liberation movement in America. You hear about, all of you have heard about Martin Luther King, right? That is the, not pacifist, but the integrationist, that's the peaceful arm of the movement. How many of you have heard of Malcolm X? Okay. Malcolm X, alhamdulillah, became Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. He represents, and his ideas represent the militant wing of the black movement, the nationalist movement, like PAC or something like that. All right. Now, I represented a movement that hardly nobody knows anything about. It is a third wing, and only a few people, some of the exiles from America that are still here. I represented what we call black mafia. Black mafia was young blacks. Now, this is the first time with drug trade, this is the first time that black had access to unlimited amounts of money. But our idea was that America was a criminal environment. It was a thief, just like the Boers here stole the land, right? From the people here, right? And then put them in townships, homeland, all them phony names that they have, right? The Zionists in Israel stole the land from Palestinians and put them in refugee camps. The Americans stole the land from the Indians, wiped them out. When I was a kid, it was only 250,000 Native Americans left. They wasted and slaughtered. I'm telling you, you never read about anything. They talk about a little Holocaust over in Germany during the war. I'm telling you, the Holocaust in all the Americas, not only North America where I'm from, but when I was dealing drugs and selling drugs from Colombia, Bolivia, Peru, I learned about their Holocaust also. I don't want to go into the numbers, but in 1519, there were 20 million people in Mexico, Aztecs, a great civilization. Within a few years, in Central and South America, they had slaughtered millions of Aztecs, Mayas, and in South America, Incas. Have you ever heard about these great empires? The Inca Empire, the Maya Empire, the great pyramids they built. These is how the Americans were before the Spanish came. Now you can imagine a European coming to Peru, the Inca Empire. Imagine people wearing little trinkets around their neck and just laying all around that are all made out of gold. And they don't consider them anything. And here comes the Spanish. And they see all of this gold. And the people don't care anything about it. It's just normal, you know. It's like seashells to them. The Spanish killed so many people and stole so much gold that those Spanish galleons sitting in the harbor in Lima, Peru, one of them was so full of gold that it sunk in the harbor. They loaded it up with so much gold. And the Incas, which was a great civilization, was trying to think, what's wrong with these people? Why do they eat gold? What's wrong with them? They couldn't imagine what made them go so crazy. This is America. Now imagine an American system. We're fighting against a system like that. They bring in drugs. Drugs break the back of the movement. Now us, the other wing that nobody knows about, all these cars and clothes, that was mainly for show. When the government, now I want to tell you something that you may not realize. In those days, I was dealing for the government, but didn't know it. The government brought drugs, think about it, into our community, and they need distributors. So they would look around at the already existing drug dealers, like I was dealing marijuana, and it became famous for it, well organized, had a good distribution network. So then, here they come, and they give you the best connections, the best quality, the cheapest price for drugs, so you become richer and richer. When the government found out that I was supporting quietly the black rebellion, they said, we gotta, excuse my expression, we gotta get rid of this nigga, right? Because they thought, we had them thinking that these clothes and cars, and that's what we was living for. No, 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 no. That was a show, that was a diversion. But because they thought that's what most black people would do, right? Most people anywhere, if they've been poor and everything, and you give them a lot of money, they're gonna go buy a big car, fancy clothes, because they think that's success. It's anywhere, it's everywhere. I keep on going. Now, when they realized that we was fooling them, but we had distributed drugs and it had broken the back of the community, what did they do to us then? Well, personally, I had to go to exile. I had to leave after several entrapments and all kind of tricks they played. And I got lucky. After 2 assassination attempts in 1970, I said, well, and you know that big pretty car that I had is what saved my life on one of the assassination attempts. Because the police stopped me on a regular street and drugged me out of the car and took me around to a big park, and they was already in the process of getting ready to kill me. I mean, they had their guns out and everything, but the people in the neighborhood, see, remember, we were a close community. They saw that big pretty car, they know it's mine, they used to call me Big Hank. It had a big H on it. So they said, the doors are open, they say, Big Hank wouldn't leave his car like that. So everybody in the neighborhood is looking around for me to see where am I at. And all of a sudden they walked right up on the police with me handcuffed and their foot on my head ready to bust me up and take me out of the world. And they say, hey, what are y'all doing? And then the police had to back off. After that, I said, you know, I got a feeling that they don't like me anymore. After that, I said, well, you know, maybe something is not right in this picture. So I went to Algeria, and I was there for a while because in those days you could hijack a plane and take it to Algeria. That was a period of decolonization, and it was a lot of stuff going on. Then after that, I wanted to go to Black Africa, so I went to East Africa, you know, like Tanzania. Tanzania was a frontline state. Frontline state mean that those days there was still Rhodesia, there was still Angola, Zimbabwe. All of those places were still under colonialism. Only half of Africa had been liberated from colonialism about that time, maybe 60%. So they had what was called frontline states. Those frontline states were where all the revolutionary groups, liberation groups was there. Our group was considered a revolutionary group also, but our brothers didn't have any money, any support. When we left the United States, we didn't have any skills. We were revolutionaries. They didn't have any money-making skills. At that time, now this is when the real big-time drug dealing comes in. So I said, well, I have a skill. I know how to make money, and I went to the top revolutionaries. If you read any book, all of them, you would know who all of them was, Eldridge Cleaver and all of them. We had a meeting in Algeria, and I said, okay, any revolution needs to be supported. So what I'll do is, if you guys help me, I'll establish a drug dealing operation, and we'll have all the money for bullets or whatever we would, because our idea was we'd get organized in Africa and we would go back and take over America. That's a kind of a big pipe dream, but you know, when you're young, you think you can do anything. So anyway, they said, no, that was against the principles of the Black Panther Party, not to sell drugs to their people. So I said, okay, forget it. I'll do it anyway. So I left Africa, spent a little time in Europe. Then I came back on the other side, Mexico, Peru, Bolivia, and finally Colombia. How did I get to Colombia? The CIA is trailing me all the time. They know where I'm at. And they basically know what I'm up to. It was white CIA officials in Bolivia seeing that I'm in South America to look for and buy cocaine and send it up to America. They came to me, I didn't know it at that time, and said, go to Colombia. See, in those days, Colombia wasn't, you hear about the Medellin cartel, Cali cartel, Pablo Escobar on TV, right? Colombia. It wasn't like that then. They was just making it that. The CIA had planned to make it the drug capital of the world. So they sent me to their already connections. I went up there, all the connections I want, and automatically I started anew. The first and only African-American drug cartel. Colombia, Mexico, and then into the United States. But something was happening all the time. I would take the money from Mexico and South America, and I would bring it to our brothers over here. But all the time I was studying revolutionary principles and morality and all of that. And at the top of my career, I quit. The reason I quit is because I can't say that I'm going to help save our brothers in exile, but I'm going to send drugs to America and kill the rest of our people that don't mix. It wasn't I didn't say one is halal or haram. I didn't say that because I wasn't a true Muslim according to the Sunnah yet. At that time, I was what you might call a black Muslim, you know, Louis Farrakhan and all of that. Anyway, the discipline and self-control helped, but it was not a moral issue in those days until we began to study the basic haqq and the basic truth. And I'm going to move toward a close. Then at that time, I just quit, and I had to go back to America and challenge the lies that they had said about me in court. Of course, I lost, and I went back to Leavenworth. You know the big prisons they have, McNeil Island. Like you all got Robben Island here. I was on McNeil Island, same place, same type of a joint, you know. Anyway, I'll be brief. After going through that process, I accept Islam and come out wanting to work for the truth. And so for the last 40 years, that's been a part of my mission. What does all that have to do with South Africa? What does what I just told you, have to do with South Africa? The first time I came here was 1994, right after the election. I think I came in June or July, maybe the election was just 1 month earlier. New South Africa, liberated our own system, great hopes and dreams and aspirations. Now, we knew they was going to do something to South Africa. Why? Number one, they eliminated the atomic energy program right away. I don't know if y'all the older people would all remember. South Africa had atomic weapons and everything else. But they didn't want black people or Indians or anyone else to have access to atomic power. So the Boers disbanded that atomic energy program before Madiba took over. Study your history. What else is so important about South Africa? South Africa, your country here, is the most organized, it has the best roads, and the African continent itself has more untapped resources than anywhere in the world. Europe has used up all their resources 50, 100 years ago. America has used up most of its resources, right? All of Europe and even Asia, you see everybody's in Africa, right? China, anybody, right? Why? Because the last reserve of unlimited resources, platinum, gold, diamonds, and all of that is right here in Africa. Right here in Africa, right? Now, South Africa is liberated. Black people is taken over. You have the best schools, the best educational system. You have more technicians, more science, more engineering. Actually, South Africa is a Western country in Africa. When I come here, I don't make no adjustment. When I go anywhere else, I have to make some adjustments. Not in South Africa. No adjustments. The only adjustment I get is I keep going, I'm a passenger in the car, I keep going over here where the driver drives. But I'm the rider, so I have to go over here because I'm in South Africa. That's the only adjustment that I have to make, right? You can turn on the tap water and drink that water without dying, right? Where else can you do that? How many countries how many of our countries in Africa have clean and fresh water, right? How many of our people die from not even having just fresh, clean water? What's the thing? South Africa, if it were to succeed, if you succeed, you'll be a shining example for the whole continent. And if Africa is a success, Europe and America, Anglo-American Mining Company, which still here, right, could not get your resources for free. The reason they can get our resources for little or nothing is because we're deprived, backwards, and disorganized. And if South Africa is a success, it will spread knowledge, learning, road building, all of those techniques, bridge building, whatever is needed, farming techniques, all of that throughout Africa. And along with that, Islam, instead of coming from the north to the south, would be going from the south to the north. What does that have to do with drugs? Just like they stopped the Black Rebellion, just like they broke the back of the Chinese 200 years ago, drugs and AIDS was flooded into South Africa. And when drugs come, what happens? Think about it. All the success that you hope for, all the rich people making more money are living in prison. My friends that are like the Kala family, they're in Lodium, and when I go to Juma, Salatul Juma, I see more Benzes and BMW at Salatul Juma than I see in Germany, where they make them. I'm telling you. The people are not poor. Now, I've been back 7 or 8 times. Do you know what I find? The drug problem grows and grows. It's beginning to affect, the statistics say 15% of the people in South Africa are affected by drugs, and then another percentage by AIDS. What does that mean? You can never progress because one drug addict means the whole family is addicted. Anybody have a brother or a friend that's addicted? The mother is worried, the father is worried, they spend all their money trying to help them. You know one thing I found about why it was so effective? My best friend became a heroin addict, and he became a burglar because you have to steal to keep your habit up. The first house he burglarized was his mother's house. We began to lock our doors. In South Africa, the richer you are, the more locks you got on the door, the more. I was in one of my brother's house in Lothian. Of course, the gates and the coming in, then those are locked. Then the other gates. Then the door has lock, 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 lock. Then when you come in the foyer, there's another gate, you know, looks like a prison bar. It has bars, zoop, that one. Then they have a button, you going back before you go into the bedroom area, there's another gate. I said, man, I've been in maximum prisons, Leavenworth, and McNeil Island, and Lompoc Federal Prison, and I've never seen as many gates and locks as you guys have in Lothian. I say you're getting richer and richer, but your life, quality of life is going lower and lower. Do you see what I mean? Tell the truth. It's probably similar to that in your families. Parents are making more money, but people are more afraid. I'm telling you, and I'll try to be brief. Maybe you got some other classes. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. Y'all got a serious mission ahead. You could spend your time becoming a doctor and making more money and what have you, or you could spend your time and ability working in the path that most young people in the world today, when you see Germany, you look at the news. When you see America, when you see the Wall Street movement, you see young people, most of them white, but in America, mixtures, black, white, Indians. I mean, American Indians, you know, but anyway, all of the kids, they don't like the world that they're living in. And they believe that the world cannot even stand another 20 years of these criminals that's running the world. Not only are they destroying people's life, but they're destroying the earth itself, right? When you look at some cities like in China, you see everybody wearing masks, isn't that right? What's the sense of having a lot of money, but you got to wear a mask or a gas mask to walk down the street? Why not just cut production or put something on the machine to cleanse the air before you shoot it out into the environment, right? No, they won't do that because it costs money. People that run the world to now are insane. They fished up, you can believe it or not, you just go into your class in your library and pop it up on the computer. Look at environmentalism, look at all of those, and you'll see they're cutting down all the trees, right? They're cutting them down. They're fishing up the ocean. Who could fish up the ocean? They have. And if there's one more fish in any area, they got new electronic gadgets that could find that fish. We got to get that one. There's one left. They're not going to say, let the poor thing live. It'll produce 1 million fish in 5 years. They don't say that, no. Or elephants and tusks, right? Right here in Africa. They're killing as many as they can. Yeah, rhinos, everything. Long as they got something they want, they won't stop. And the Chinese, like the tigers, they got something in their intern that they like. And so they say it's only 3 tigers left. Well, they say, we got a machine can track them down. Let's get them. They won't, I'm telling you, the human being has gone crazy. Now, the question for you is quantity of life, more things, or quality of life? What I'm asking you today, to use your talent and use your expertise, how to make the world a better place to live in, right? That's the only way you're going to conquer drugs and crime and all of that. You have to make the whole, we've studied it for 40 and 50 years. There is no way to stop just one plague. The plague of AIDS, we work on that. The plague of drugs, no. You have to solve the whole human experience. And this generation has to do that. Why you have to do it? It's not like before. I'm telling you. Just go to your library and look up a college year, go on the computer. The earth, which cleans itself if it's left alone, right? It'll clean the water, no matter how dirty it is, it'll collect it, draw it up, distill it, and send it back down as pure water. Isn't that right? It's a natural process. Not nowadays. You ever heard of acid rain? You know what acid rain is? Allah collects that water, takes it up, distills it, purifies it, but the atmosphere is filthy. And the rain, as it comes down, right, it goes down through all of that filth, and when it hits your house, it puts holes in the roof. When that water, acid rain, it was so bad a few years back that in one city, they melted gravestones. I'm telling you the truth. I know it sounds, you know, a gravestone made out of granite and rock. Holes in the gravestone, pitted, pop, pop, pop. Why? Acid rain. Do you want to live in that type of world? Think about it. Do you want to, is this the South Africa that we live in now? Is this the one we dream for? Is this the one we hope for? Well, if we don't like it, we have to change it. Allah says in Quran, and I'll move toward a close, verily Allah will not change a condition of a people until they change anfusihim, that which is in themselves. So what's the call today? The call today is to use your ability. If you're the elite school, join the elites, youth all around the world. I'm telling you, the elite white children today are not running after more and more material. They saw what it did to their parents, right? They see what it's doing to the world. And they use their education, they're organizing. If you don't believe it, turn on any channel that shows the West, and you will see people in Greece, in Spain, in America, all in the street demonstrating. If you want to be in the modern trend, up to date, get in a trend to rescue the earth from this parasitical being called the human being. It's a parasite. If we don't control it, the world, the earth, I know it sounds like doomsday, and I'll close with it. Do you notice all the American movies have a doomsday scenario? All American movies when I grew up were happy endings. Now all the guys, they gotta go out of space because they messed up the earth, right? Tell the truth. Book of Eli, he gotta walk all the way across the country, go through this, a desolate, every movie almost is a desolate earth. You know why? You know about Freudian slips, right? The Americans have lost, the movie makers, the rich, they've lost confidence in themselves, they've lost confidence in the human being to solve human earthly problems. It's reflected in their movies. They don't know what they're doing, but it's reflected. No happy endings, right? No everything is all right. If they had confidence, they would make movies like we went through the struggle and we prevailed and we made a cleaner, better world. Do you see any movies like that? No. They're always desolate, and wherever they are in the future, they got new zap guns and all of that that kill everybody. They don't have no Shangri-Las. They don't have no utopias, right? We got the technology to do that, but you don't see none of that. Why? Because the Western human being has lost their mind. They are basically insane. Money runs you crazy. Wealth runs you crazy. And I'll close with this. Suppose you have $1 million and you buy things that makes you happy. Then you move that up to $1 billion. Okay, what can you buy with $1 billion? Maybe a new house? Have no, you ever seen rich kids? I've seen a lot of them. And they have every physical gadget you can imagine, and they're the most happiest kids you ever seen. They got every gadget, and they're bored to death. Right? Tell the truth. You've seen it probably a few. Everything, and they are also crazy. I want to close with this. We ask you, dear believers here, if you're in elite school, be really elite. Answer the challenge of your time. The challenge in your parents' time was to get a better job, get more money, da-da-da-da. That was a challenge in my time, too. That's not the challenge today. The challenge is to implement a process globally that will help the human being reach is full potential. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Didn't mean to talk so long, but if you have any questions, I don't know what the time frame is, but just feel free. In fact, you can just stand up and shout it out, if we have just a few minutes.
Number one, to what extent have you personally been influenced by Elijah Muhammad? And the second part, I had a friend many years ago from the States,
Right.
Dr. Abdul Malik Bashir Rushuddin.
Rushuddin,
yeah.
Yeah.
A very good friend of mine. He came home to Stein and lived with me.
Right.
I don't know what happened. He spoke along similar lines.
Right.
He spoke about the book called Roots by Alex Haley.
Yeah.
And about Kunta Kinte, and
Yeah.
so on. I'm quite afraid of what you said.
Yes.
And really, I'm quite impressed by what you said
Okay.
as well. The third part is, what is the condition of Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan?
Okay.
You mentioned just now.
All right.
And against the
Okay.
backdrop-
No, just let me knock off those three. No, you can load it. You can come back. We got it all day. I don't mind. All right. Okay. Hold on. Come on now. Okay. Let me answer. The first question is a very important question. What was the influence of the Nation of Islam on me personally? First of all, during Malcolm X's time and all of that time, I was a member of the Nation of Islam. I first heard the teachings of the Nation of Islam in 1963. I was 18 years old. So, that means I'm 68 now, of course. So that means that I adopted the teachings. I became an official, like the highest rank that I moved to was a captain. That's right under the minister. But the captain is the one that controls and teaches the FOI, the Fruit of Islam. You know, it's kind of a militant group of brothers that, okay. But that was not true Islam. It was not true Islam at all. It was so bad it wasn't even shirk. It was so bad. Let me give you an example about the teachings. Do we have time? The fundamental teaching of the Nation of Islam is, the first lesson is, it says, who is the original man? It says the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, and father of civilization. It was saying basically the black man is God, the original man. And we all believe that we were godly like. Now, that was necessary in America because we had been taught super inferiority complexism. So the teachings of the Nation of Islam was a reaction or a response to white supremacy. We taught black supremacy, that's all. That's all it was. So they taught God was white, and we taught that God was black. Yeah. Of course, the guy that we had a picture of God was from Australia. He was half what we would call now, he was half Indian and half white. And we had a picture of him, and he was considered God. Farad Muhammad was considered God. And later on I said, well, hey, if the black man is God, why don't you have a picture of somebody like me that's a little darker and what have you? It looks better. You know, anyway, but the teachings of the Nation of Islam influenced America a lot. Why? Because it was super reverse discrimination. But remember, in those days, we didn't know nothing about Quran and Sunnah. We had the Quran, but we read it and understood it according to what they told us. And really, at that time, it made sense. It said the white man is the devil. Shaitan is not Shaitan. The white man is Shaitan. Now, in 1963, that made sense. When you looked all around the world, 50 years ago, the European, either the British or the French or the Dutch, right, control the world. And this is the time when Congo and everybody else is trying to be free from colonialism. And we looked at our country in America, everything, the clothes you wore, your education, the food you ate, everything depended on your race. So when they said the white man is the devil, 1963 is when they blew up a church and killed those 4 little girls. Who would blow up a church? They're Christians, the people in the church are Christians except a devil. Made sense to me. So I liked it. I said, and then they said, well, the white man said, the lighter you are, the better you are. This one turned it around and said, the darker you are, the better you are. I took a look. I said, hey, that's a good religion. You got to remember, I don't know nothing about Quran and Sunnah. It's like, what it is to me, like in history, it's like if you have a candlelight in absolute darkness, that's a lot of light. But if I walk outside now holding a candle, what would you think? That man is crazy, right? Tell the truth. Because the nur of the sun, that's the way it was with the teachings of the Nation of Islam. It was a candlelight in absolute darkness. Remember, they taught us everything we knew. We didn't love ourselves. Our picture of a black man is someone that would be inferior to everybody else. He would be unable to do the things that everybody else do because of education and history. And here comes a teaching that says you can do anything because you're God. And the one stopping you from doing everything is the devil. And you go to the dictionary and you see everything in there black is bad, everything white is good, right? That's why we accepted the teachings of the Nation of Islam. Dr. Rashiddin at that time was a follower of, he was with Imam Muhammad. Imam Muhammad was the was the son of Elijah Muhammad. But Imam Muhammad, when Elijah Muhammad died in 1974, now I was a part of the group still, And Imam Muhammad moved toward the Quran and the Sunnah in a true sense. Personally, I went right along with that transition in 1974. That's 40 years ago, to Quran and Sunnah. Okay, Louis Farrakhan went a little way, then he backed up. Dr. Rashidin went a little way, then he backed up. Not only did he back up, Dr. Rashidin became the spokesman for Louis Farrakhan. So we had two groups, the original Nation of Islam under Farrakhan, and Rashidin became Khalid Abdul Muhammad, he called himself. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Okay. Because Farrakhan was not militant enough, Farrakhan not militant enough, Dr. Rashidin, Khalid Abdul Muhammad from Mule, he came here in 1978, I think, and he gave speeches all over. He started what's called the New Black Panther Party. It's a new Black Panther Party. It's a very militant self-defense party. We make speeches together all the time. It exists now. So what happened was, 7, 8 years ago, someone tried to assassinate Khalid Abdul Muhammad. It didn't work, or Dr. Rashidin. But at 53 years old, Khalid Abdul Muhammad died of a massive heart attack. He was in excellent physical condition, never had any heart attack news, right? And he died. But you know, in America, anybody that tries to do good, whether it's Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, whatever color, if you try to do good in America, you are eventually dead. I might have one picture to give you an example. Let me see this. Now, this says Revolution from Egypt to the Americas, Oakland and the American Islamic Revolution. This just came off the internet maybe last year or so. So this is, I would say, the third most famous person during the Civil Rights era. He was known as H. Rap Brown. He became Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And he's done good Islamic work for the last 35 years in America. They gave him a phony charge of killing a police officer in Atlanta, Georgia, 13 and a half years ago. And he's been in Ultra Max, that is the most maximum security prison in the United States, since that time, after his trial and everything. So he's been in prison now for 13 and a half years. This is Imam Luqman, his second in command. These are both very good friends of mine. He was killed by the FBI in Detroit 4 years ago. He was shot 21 times while he was laying on the ground. So he couldn't have a weapon, but he was shot, assassinated. Everybody knows this is assassination. Then they have a picture of me right here, right? You don't have to be smart to figure out what this means, what message they're sending to me. Think about it. What does this message, if you can read and write on a first grade level, you know what that means. That means your best friend is in prison for the rest of his life. The one that wasn't in prison, your next best friend, is assassinated. It means, nigga, if you don't shut up, you're next. Right? Tell the truth. Right? Isn't that's clear? You don't have to, even if you don't know what's going, if you know anything That's exactly what that means, right? That's exactly, you don't have to be smart to figure that out. When I pop it up on the internet, I say, oh, another message. I get this message all the time. So, Dr. Rashidin, I answered that. Elijah Muhammad, I answered that. What was the last one? Louis Farrakhan?
I have just one more question.
Yes, yes.
I think this will satisfy everyone.
Right, okay, all right.
Against the backdrop of what you said about the so-called nigger,
Right,
and the fact that it came from a revolution and so on, and the Black Power movement,
right.
Elijah Muhammad, I want to know, how do you cope with an enigma like Barack Obama? I mean, doesn't it affect him that his people are involved in this struggle?
No, they asked me several years ago, just before they had the election, the news came to our masjid and they said, what do you think about Barack Obama? I said, he has a beautiful name. Barack Hussein Obama. I said, number one, he's not blessed, and he's not going to bless anybody else. And Hussein, he's not like Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And therefore, I told the news he is a white man's nigger. A white man's nigger. That's before he's arrested, before he becomes president. And he's proved it, right? He's the worst president. See, we like George Bush because he was a classical idiot. No, this man is so dumb. This man is so dumb. He's so dumb you wouldn't. And I gave speeches on Fox News. They say, you're a revolutionary. I said, I give khutbahs, and I say, do not do anything to America. We don't have to bother them. I said, when George Bush, you can look up my name on the internet, and it's still there, on Fox News. I said, when George Bush finishes with America, nobody will love it, nobody will believe it, and the economy is you're going to be flat broke. That was in 2007. A month or so later, what happened to America? Good God Almighty. The biggest crash in the stock market, the banking system since the Depression. You ever heard about the Depression? That's where it was broke. It's that same broke now. You think about America, that beautiful place you see on the movies, forget it. You're doing better here than they are there, I'm telling you. America, I'm talking about white people, homeless and everything else right now. Jobs finished. So the answer to the question is about Barack Obama. Under Barack Obama, we had an increase in soldiers in Afghanistan, right? And an increase in service industry, military stuff in Afghanistan. And all allies, American allies of this. When the Taliban was there, as miscalculating as they are, drugs was being suppressed, opium and heroin. What happened? Anybody reading the statistics? Drugs increased under U.S. authority 400%. There's 400% more heroin. I don't want to go into the history. If you study Vietnam, the ZM regime, these are big, great historical figures. Heroin, the Golden Triangle. Did y'all see the, how many saw American Gangster? American Gangster, Denzel Washington. Anybody see that movie? Let's look at the plot. This will verify everything I've been telling you. American Gangster, his life was almost exactly like mine in some ways, except he went to Southeast Asia and I went to South America. I dealt with cocaine and he dealt with heroin. What's the basic plot? He goes to South Vietnam. His friend, cousin that's in the army, takes him into the interland, right? and the guy is a Chinese guy, and he's an associate of Chiang Kai-shek. I know you guys don't know. Anybody know who Chiang Kai-shek is? He was a dictator of China when I was a kid. He's the one that started Taiwan. When Chairman Mao took over China, all those rich people went to Taiwan. Remember, how did he get the heroin back to the United States? Anybody remember? Anybody remember how he got the heroin back to the United States? Anybody? Well, how? On U.S. military planes, right? So the heroin is produced by a CIA operative under Chiang Kai-shek's people. It's brought back to the United States on U.S. military planes, right? Anybody see the movie? And it's only distributed by black people. After he done killed all the black people with heroin addiction, with high quality heroin, then they take the dope away from him and take everything away and try to put him in prison. That's the same policy I've been telling you about. When they tried it on me, I picked up and left. I said, you ain't gonna have me deal for you and then go put me in jail for it, and you're the one started it. Okay, anyway, I hope that answers the question. Remember this, especially here as young brothers with a great future ahead of you. Try to make the world a better place. I don't say be poor and hungry, no. Get you a nice house, a nice car, but make your aim in life a higher goal, to make the world a better place to live in. Thank you very much for being so patient. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الحليم العليم العظيم الرحيم السميع البصير الله الله إلهي أنت الحميد المجيد الله الله إلهي أنت الحليم العليم العظيم الرحيم السميع